Imagine standing on land worth trillions of dollars. Beneath your feet lies gold, diamonds, oil, natural gas, copper, cobalt, lithium, some of the world's richest farmland, and enough sunlight and rivers to power entire nations. Now imagine that many of the people living on that same land still struggle to access clean drinking water, reliable electricity, quality health care, or good-paying jobs. How can both of those things be true? How can a continent blessed with so much natural wealth still face so many economic challenges? It seems impossible. Yet this is one of the biggest questions in the world today. Africa is home to about 30% of the planet's known mineral resources. It also has around 60% of the world's uncultivated arable land suitable for farming. From the oil fields of Nigeria and Angola, to the copper mines of Zambia, the diamond deposits of Botswana, the cobalt reserves of the Democratic Republic of the Congo, Africa possesses resources that power industries, fuel economies, and support millions of jobs around the world.
Every day, minerals extracted from Africa help build smartphones, electric cars, computers, aircraft, batteries, and countless other products used by billions of people. In many ways, the modern world depends on Africa more than most people realize. So why hasn't all of this wealth made every African country prosperous? Some people blame colonialism. Others blame corruption. Some point to foreign companies. Others argue that poor leadership, conflict, weak institutions, or unfair trade are the real reasons. The truth is more complicated. There isn't one single answer. Instead, this story is made up of centuries of history, difficult choices, missed opportunities, global politics, and remarkable resilience. To understand why Africa is so rich in resources, yet many of its people still face poverty, we have to go back to a time before the modern borders we know today. Back to a time when Africa was home to powerful kingdoms, thriving cities, and some of the world's busiest trade routes. Because this story doesn't begin with poverty, it begins with prosperity.
When many people think about Africa, they picture poverty. But for much of history, that wasn't the reality. Long before European ships appeared on Africa's coasts, the continent was home to powerful kingdoms, thriving cities, and international trade networks that connected Africa to Europe, the Middle East, and Asia. In West Africa, the Kingdom of Ghana grew wealthy by controlling the trade of gold and salt. Later came the Mali Empire, one of the richest empires the world has ever known. Its ruler, Mansa Musa, became famous for his pilgrimage to Mecca in 1324. Historical accounts describe him giving away so much gold along the journey that the price of gold reportedly fell in parts of the Middle East for years. Whether every detail of those stories is exact is still debated by historians. But one thing is certain: West Africa was already an important center of wealth, learning, and trade. Far to the east, merchants along the Swahili coast traded with Arabia, India, and China. Cities such as Kilwa and Mombasa became busy ports where ships carried ivory, gold, spices, and many other valuable goods across the Indian Ocean. Further south, the Kingdom of Great Zimbabwe built impressive stone cities and became an important center of trade and craftsmanship. Across the continent, people farmed, mined, raised livestock, forged iron tools, and built thriving communities. Africa was not a continent without wealth. It was a continent where wealth already existed in many forms. But as global demand for gold, ivory, copper, and other valuable resources grew, powerful nations began looking at Africa very differently. By the late 1800s, competition for Africa had intensified. Within a few decades, maps were redrawn, borders were created, and millions of Africans found themselves living under foreign rule.
Those decisions would shape Africa's future for generations, and they help explain the economic challenges many countries still face today. By the end of the 19th century, nearly all of Africa had come under European colonial rule. Different countries controlled different regions, but they often shared one economic goal: to extract resources. Railways were built, roads were constructed, ports expanded. At first glance, that sounds like development, but there was an important difference. Much of this infrastructure was designed to move raw materials like gold, cocoa, copper, rubber, cotton, and minerals from the interior of Africa to the coast, where they could be shipped overseas. There was far less investment in industries that processed those resources within Africa. Imagine a country that grows millions of cocoa beans but exports almost all of them without making chocolate. Or a country rich in copper that sells raw copper instead of producing electrical cables, machinery, or electronics. The country earns money from selling the raw material, but another country earns even more by turning it into finished products.
For decades, this pattern shaped many African economies. They exported raw materials and imported finished goods. When many African countries gained independence during the 1950s and 1960s, they inherited political freedom, but they also inherited economies that depended heavily on a small number of exports. That created a serious challenge. If the world price of oil, copper, cocoa, or coffee suddenly dropped, government income could fall almost overnight. After independence, African leaders had the opportunity to build stronger economies. Some countries made remarkable progress. Others struggled with military coups, civil wars, corruption, weak institutions, and heavy debt. Botswana, for example, invested much of its diamond wealth into education, healthcare, and public services, becoming one of Africa's strongest economic success stories. Meanwhile, other resource-rich countries found it much harder to turn natural wealth into broad prosperity. The difference wasn't simply the amount of resources beneath the ground. It was often how those resources were managed above the ground. And that brings us to one of the biggest surprises in economics. Sometimes, having more natural resources can actually make it harder for a country to become wealthy. Economists call this the resource curse.
It sounds strange. How could having more natural resources ever be a bad thing? Shouldn't oil, gold, diamonds, and valuable minerals automatically make a country rich? In reality, it's not that simple. Economists use the term resource curse to describe a situation where countries rich in natural resources sometimes grow more slowly or face greater economic and political challenges than countries with fewer resources. The resources themselves are not the problem. The challenge is how they are managed. Imagine discovering oil in your backyard. If you invest the money wisely, build businesses, improve schools, construct hospitals, and create new industries, that discovery could transform your family's future. But if the money is wasted, stolen, or spent without planning for tomorrow, the opportunity quickly disappears. Countries face the same challenge. Take Nigeria, Africa's largest oil producer. Oil has generated hundreds of billions of dollars in revenue over the decades, yet many Nigerians still struggle with unreliable electricity, limited access to quality healthcare, and unemployment. The issue isn't that Nigeria lacks wealth. The challenge has been turning that wealth into lasting development for everyone.
Now, compare that with Botswana. After discovering large diamond deposits, the country invested much of its income in education, healthcare, roads, and public services. Although Botswana still faces challenges, it is often seen as one of Africa's strongest examples of using natural resources to support long-term development. Then, there is the Democratic Republic of the Congo. It holds some of the world's largest reserves of cobalt, a mineral used in batteries for electric vehicles, smartphones, and laptops. Despite this extraordinary wealth, decades of conflict,
Weak governance in some areas and underdeveloped infrastructure have prevented many people from fully benefiting from these resources. These stories reveal an important truth. Natural resources alone do not create prosperity. Leadership matters, strong institutions matter, education matters, and perhaps most importantly, how a country invests today's wealth to build tomorrow's economy matters. Because the richest nations are not always the ones with the most resources. They are often the ones that create value from those resources. And today, as the world races toward cleaner energy and new technology, Africa's importance is growing once again. Today, the world is changing faster than ever before. Countries are racing to build electric cars. Companies are investing billions in renewable energy. Artificial intelligence, smartphones, batteries, and solar panels all depend on minerals that Africa has in abundance. The Democratic Republic of the Congo supplies much of the world's cobalt. Zimbabwe has large lithium deposits. Guinea is one of the world's leading producers of bauxite, the main ore used to make aluminum. South Africa remains a major producer of platinum, while Zambia continues to play a vital role in global copper production. But Africa's greatest opportunity isn't only what's beneath the ground, it's the people living above it. Africa has the youngest population of any continent. Every year, millions of young Africans are starting businesses, learning new skills, building technology companies, and finding creative solutions to local problems. Across the continent, new industries are growing, cities are expanding, and regional trade is becoming stronger than ever before. The world still needs Africa. But perhaps for the first time in history, Africa has a greater opportunity to shape its own future.
So, why is Africa so rich, yet many Africans are still poor? The answer isn't just colonialism. It isn't just corruption. It isn't just foreign companies. And it isn't simply the resources themselves. The answer is a combination of history, leadership, global trade, education, institutions, conflict in some regions, and the choices made over many generations. But this story is far from over. Every day across Africa, people are building businesses, improving communities, creating new technologies, and proving that the continent's future is not limited by its past. Perhaps Africa's greatest resource has never been its gold, its oil, or its diamonds. Perhaps its greatest resource has always been its people, because when people are given the opportunity to learn, innovate, and lead, they can transform entire nations. The question is no longer whether Africa is rich. It is. The real question is whether that wealth can create a better future for every African. And that story is still being written. If you enjoyed this documentary, let us know your thoughts in the comments. What do you think is the biggest challenge and the biggest opportunity for Africa's future? If you found this video informative, don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications for more documentaries from Africa Explained. Thanks for watching. We'll see you in the next story.